much alive. Dang, pretty. Beauty. Whoops. This project is humbling me. But how does it taste? Welcome back to Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather. I know full well that yesterday you saw me outside in the snow in the garden, and today I am in shorts and a t-shirt. That's because that's how Kentucky is. The garden is dead, so this is proof that this is after that heavy freeze that we had. It's very, very windy today because that's also what Kentucky likes to do. Our springs come in fiercely, and so do our winters. This is what it's like in the fall and winter, just very, very back and forth, crazy temperatures with a lot of wind. So it's nice today, but tomorrow I think the high doesn't get above freezing and the low is 15 degrees. It's a lot. It's a lot for the people, it's a lot for the animals, and it's a lot for the plants. So I'm gonna come out here and harvest the dill that we have in the garden and freeze dry it, because I don't know for sure if it's going to be able to live through these extremes. So here's the state of the dill patch as it is. It looks like it's kind of wilty and a little bit beaten down. It's not dead, it's very much alive. I think that it's not happy. If you've wondered before why we have straps and T-posts around our green stalks that are outside, that's why. The wind is why. Oh, goodness, it's really blowing out there, but it's nice here in the shed. And this is the dill that I managed to scrounge up from the garden. This is quite a bit. I planted none of this. This all volunteered from dill that I did plant earlier in the season, so I'm very happy for what I can get. I have tried to dry dill in the past, just air drying it, and I have also put it in the dehydrator, and I can't ever get it to retain a significant amount of that nice dilly flavor. I basically have to eat like a whole ounce of it, a whole dry ounce of it, in order to get any of the flavor, which is just not the case with fresh dill, but I've never tried to freeze dry it. So we're gonna freeze dry it today. And I have some of our mushroom harvest that I got recently. These are pearl oyster mushrooms. I haven't grown this variety before, but my friend Anthony down at Druidry Farms in Alabama sent them to me, and they've been in the refrigerator. I harvested them a couple of days ago, and they're just so dang pretty. So we're going to be putting the mushrooms as well as the dill in the freeze dryer, and I think that this is a kind of a good combo. I couldn't just put, let's say, one tray in the freeze dryer if I just wanted to freeze dry the dill. The freeze dryer is, you know how sometimes technology is too smart for its own good? It doesn't know the difference between an empty tray and a dry tray. It's got moisture sensors in it, and if there's nothing in the tray, it assumes, okay, that tray is dry, and it can trigger the freeze dryer to finishing the cycle too soon, so that the stuff that is on one of the trays may not get as dry as it's supposed to. So by filling up all of the trays, we help balance that out a little bit and can ensure that we get thoroughly dry food. I'm not sure if this is important, but this is something that I wanted to make sure that I kept consistent because it made sense to me, but I didn't want to necessarily do two different things with a significantly different density. Like, I don't think I would want to freeze dry meat on one tray and then like dill on another tray, because the meat would take significantly longer than the dill to freeze dry, just because there's a different density, there's a different moisture volume there. The dill and the mushrooms are a lot closer, and so I feel like this is going to allow for a nice even drying. Now, I didn't bring a knife out here, but it doesn't matter. You don't need one with oyster mushrooms. If you want them to get split in half because they're a little bit too big, you can just do it with your hand. Oyster mushrooms are really great kind of meat substitutes if you need that, because it shreds. They shred a lot like meat. And you can season it to be kind of like meat. I don't know exactly how many pounds of mushrooms I'm dealing with today. I'm just gonna sort of try to fill the trays up evenly and get at least one tray of the dill going. Beauty. Okay, so I've got the freeze dryer with 4 of the trays of mushrooms, and then I've got plenty to cook with tonight. This is probably a little over a pound of mushrooms, which is great. And then as far as the dill goes, I am not gonna worry about picking off the little fronds off of the stems. I'm gonna freeze dry this essentially whole. I'm just gonna try to pick out little bits of grass and mulch that I may have picked up while we were out there. Pack the tray as full as I can. I do have a little bit of clearance in there. Good afternoon. It is the next day, and I'm pretty sure the freeze dryer is done. I'm gonna let it kind of marinate for a little while because I want to work on the advent calendar. If you are not aware of what I am doing, I did buy this Sheepishly Me wool felting advent calendar, and on the first day my needle broke. And I had intended to do one of these every day along with my Vlogmas videos, but I had to wait a little while for my new needles to come in. A lot of you suggested that I get a bunch of needles, so I have. This should last us a good while. So I am behind, obviously, on the advent calendar, so I'd like to do like a couple crafts per day until we catch up, and then we'll be caught up. So don't forget, day 1 was our cute little round sheep. Day 2, these are not in order. Okay, here's number 2. Ooh, we have some colored bits in here. Got the little tutorial going. This day looks easy. At this point, I'm glad that we're making 2. From what I understand, at the end of the whole thing, at the end of the whole 24 days, what we're making throughout this advent calendar is gonna come together as like one little Christmas diorama art piece thing. Pretty excited about it. Whoops. Looks like day 2 is some Christmas ornaments. Day 2 was another sheep, so our first sheep has a friend. Okay, this 4th day looks more complicated. I'm starting to have serious doubts about my abilities, so don't make fun of me. We are apparently making a sleigh, and I think I know where this is going. Right now is the time of year where we have started to get a lot of seed catalogs. I have gotten beekeeping catalogs. One of my favorite catalogs to receive is the LL Bean catalog, and I've received that. The kids have gotten like their Lego catalogs and things. But I also received a Homesteading magazine, which I had never seen before, and I didn't know that they existed at all. I had seen some like digital versions of Homesteading magazines, but for some reason, and it might be because I'm in front of a computer a lot of the day, that it just didn't really appeal to me. There's something about having those kinds of things in your hand that you don't have to try to remember what website it was at or risk that information kind of falling off of the internet, if you know what I mean. I hope that this eventually looks like a sleigh. I don't know. I am pretty crafty, and this project is humbling me. So, whoops, this is part of what I received in the mail. Something that I didn't know existed. Now, we've only been homesteading since 2019, so many of you may recognize these two, the Self-Reliance and then Backwoods Home. First thing I noticed is how thick it is. There's a lot of information in here, and what I love is that this is information that doesn't have to disappear like can happen on the internet. I can't tell you how many times I have saved a recipe or some other kind of website for some kind of reason. Maybe it was an herbal remedy type thing, and I went back to the bookmark and it was gone. Like the hyperlink or whatever didn't work anymore. Maybe it was rerouted, but in any case, that information was no longer at my fingertips like I had hoped it would stay, and that kind of thing just won't happen with something like this. I really like being able to hold something in my hands, get away from the screens, and learn some things that I didn't know. A lot of times with the internet, you're searching for things that you want to know about. In something like this, you're coming across things that you didn't know that you needed to know about or wanted to know about. Both of these are chock full of recipes, methods for like growing things, building things. I noticed that there is a whole section in this particular issue of Backwoods Home on growing and preserving your grapes, and this is something that I really need. Planting, pruning, pests and disease, harvesting and preserving, propagating, and then making things like grape wine vinegar. All things that I really need, and I have them here, and they're not going to disappear. And here's the other one, Self-Reliance magazine. Very similar. This I really appreciate. You guys know how I make messes, and I don't share all of them, but I do share a lot of the messes that I make because I feel like when you can see another person fumbling along just as much as you're fumbling along and they're still getting things done and enjoying the lifestyle, that it can be really encouraging. And there's a little bit of that in here. Homestead, Humbles and Fumbles, my failed attempts at growing garlic. So it's not all necessarily how-to. There's a lot of that. Actually, most of it is how-to and recipes and things. But there's also a little bit of encouragement where you can learn from someone else's mistakes. I think that has a ton of value. I think these are really valuable, and I'm very excited about them. I do have an affiliate link for these guys. Using our link gets you 50% off of your quarterly issues. That is an incredible value for what you get in here with 80% fewer ads. I don't think I mentioned that. And the ads that are there are actually something that a homesteader or a farmer may be interested in. It's not like it's full of pharmaceuticals or anything like that. Look at me flipping, unable to find an ad. There we go. It's for a family-owned seed company. Like, that's what I mean. Good ads. Ads that you actually feel like, yeah, I'd like to support that. So anyways, I do have that link in the description box and in the pinned comment for 50% off. Go ahead and give it a click. It's a sleigh, not a shoe. This is what I'm seeing thus far. I have no idea how this is going to go together, but sheep pulling a sleigh? Here's what the mushrooms look like. They look exactly like they did when they went in. It's not always the case, but quite often that's the case with freeze drying. Mushrooms are definitely one thing that we go through very quickly as far as things that we freeze dry, and so I like to store them in jars. The mushroom blocks just always grow way more than we can eat. We really enjoy to eat mushrooms fresh, and honestly the freeze-dried mushrooms, this is how we used to buy them at the store. We would shop at the Asian market and get all manner of mushrooms freeze-dried. Pretty expensive, honestly, but now we have our own. Got this desiccant pack to shove in the jar just to take out any excess moisture from the air that's in there. Here's the dill. This looks a little bit different. It looks like it retracted, like it shrank just the tiniest bit. Ooh. It definitely smells like fresh dill, which the dried dill that I have inside that was just dried, you know, air dried, it doesn't. Okay, so it's preserved, but how does it taste? No. Yes. It's not like fresh dill. I feel like there's nothing like fresh dill. It's easily one of my favorite things. This though is better than being without it. That's kind of disappointing. Next year I'll have to make sure to get dill going in the greenhouse because I feel like it will last pretty much perpetually in there. Trying to get it all in frame. I don't think I can. But these are the spoils of our 2 most recent harvests. I honestly feel like I have used the freeze dryer more in the last couple of months than I used it all year long, because of the way that our garden kind of didn't produce the abundance that I had hoped for. But it's really nice to have that up and running again frequently. Honestly, it does put out quite a bit of heat as it runs, and so while it's cold right now, running that is helping heat our shed here, and that's pretty nice. So it's gonna be cold again tonight. I think maybe I need to find something else to shove in there. I know I've got a million billion pumpkins, so maybe I'll do that. If you haven't seen our video where we broke down exactly how the freeze dryer works and all the nitty-gritty details about that, I'll put that video up here. Also, don't forget to click the link down in the description box to see what those homesteading magazines are all about.